Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. U.S. Navy strikes Venezuelan-linked drug boat, killing 3. U.S.-Qatar near defense pact after Israeli strike in Doha. Israel launches full-scale ground offensive in Gaza City. DNA evidence ties Charlie Kirk's murder suspect to the rifle. White-on-white crime, rarely headlines, but it's not rare. Critics call out racialized crime narratives as white-on-white violence gets very little media play. I wonder what all the white supremacists and those who have adopted white supremacist ideology will have to say about these statistics that's reported by your own people. The U.S. military has reported again struck a boat allegedly carrying drugs from Venezuela, killing 3 people aboard. President Trump claims this is part of a broader crackdown stretching military reach into international waters. I wonder what just cause does America have when we're shooting down alleged drug boats? What information? Did we fly UAVs over the area? Do we have positive identification of drugs? Because if these Venezuelans are international waters, they have every right to do so. Some people are speaking, especially the critics are stating that this is a violation of international law because there's no evidence that is supporting the claim that America has once again shot down a Venezuelan boat that could possibly have been carrying innocent people. So again, I think even for Americans ourselves, we need to know the evidence that we have if we are just indiscriminately shooting boats because they're from Venezuela, and we automatically think because we have been manipulated to think that all boats out of Venezuela are carrying drugs. So again, anything that our administration, anything that our government does, we have to judge, right? This is why we have the Second Amendment. And we're going to talk about some of the comments that I've received on my gun violence video that people really did not agree with because of my stance on guns, that guns are not the problem, that stupid people and violent people with guns are the problem. And again, my only rebuttal is, what would they do if they didn't have the gun? Would people be unalive so easily if they didn't have the gun? So when it comes to this particular situation, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to know the same. What evidence do we have to state that these boats coming out of Venezuela that are international waters, no less, are carrying drugs and that they are headed for America? So that's the question I have. But until then, we need more evidence and proof that that is the case. After the Israeli strike in Doha, Qatar, targeting Hamas leaders, the U.S. and Qatar are said to be finalizing a new defense cooperation agreement. And Senator Marco Rubio confirmed this enhanced defense cooperation is very near. And you're probably asking yourself, why does this matter? Because Qatar is a critical regional mediator, has hosted U.S. bases, and this could signal a very strong U.S. presence or influence in resolving or being involved in the Israeli-Hamas conflict. But this is not the first time that Israel has bombed any peace negotiation that's dealing with, quote unquote, the state of Hamas or the terrorist group Hamas in Israel to foster some sort of peace treaty and or ceasefire. This is not the first time they've literally killed negotiations for peace. They did this when they had Hamas leaders in Iran trying to come to some sort of negotiations. They bombed that as well. This has been an ongoing tactic and strategy of Israel to stop all peace negotiations, all ceasefire negotiations when it comes to Hamas, because Hamas are not freedom fighters, according to the report. They are a terrorist group. Now, I want you guys to think about this. Is it possible? I'm only asking a question. Do not kill the messenger. This is not 300. This is not Sparta, okay? And I'm not Spartacus. But I want you guys to ask yourself this question. Is Hamas, the world-known terrorist group out of Palestine, are they in fact freedom fighters or a terrorist group? Now, we know ever since 1948, by the way of the UN partition plan of Palestine, to give Israelites, Jews, a part of their country in order for them to live safe lives away from people who were demonizing the Jewish faith and killing Jewish people simply because they claim to be Jewish, a place where they can live sovereignly, they can live in a sovereign land that they can call their own and govern themselves as such, instead of being in all of these Eastern and Midwestern European countries. Because we know that a lot of the Israelites that their origin is from Eastern European, not all Jews. I'm not referring to all Jews. We're talking about the ones that carved out a region within Palestine that they call Israel. A lot of them derive from Eastern and Midwestern European ethnic groups. And now they have created another so-called ethnic group culturally based in religion, the Jewish faith, Israel. So again, I'm just questioning that. Is Hamas freedom fighters, or Hamas is in fact a terrorist group? Now, based on some of the acts that Hamas have done, that are terroristic acts. But again, we always need to know the cause. Now, of course, Israel called them a very evil and vile group. This is the reason why they've done these very, traumatic events towards the Israelites in that region. But again, I would like to know why, because when we look at terrorists altogether, why do terrorists conduct the acts that they have? Oh, but because they don't believe in our faith. It's all religious based. When America got attacked 9/11, it's because Americans are infidels and we do not practice the Muslim faith. We are, in fact, a Christian country, no less. But again, for the people in the comment section, I would like you to chime in to see your thoughts and your opinions on this. Is Hamas a terrorist group because of their acts, or they are freedom fighters for the statehood of Palestine? That is the question. I would love to know what you guys think. Now, Israel, the Israeli IDF military have begun its ground offensive in Gaza City, following heavy airstrikes and shellings. Thousands of residents are fleeing. Estimates vary, but hundreds of thousands have evacuated or are in displacement. Now, on the ground, they have intense bombardment, destruction of buildings, mass displacement, and the humanitarian scenario is worsening with limited safe zones. Now, Israel is going to come out and state that we gave an order about a week ago for all Palestinians to flee the Gaza Strip and Gaza altogether, because we're going to enact a ground offensive and to start to destroy all of Gaza. That's basically what they're stating. Now, unfortunately, 68 so far, and the number is still increasing. 68 Palestinians have been killed. And the United Nations inquiry has found that Israel's nearly 2-year war on Gaza is a genocide. It took the United Nations 2 years to come up with this conclusion that Palestinians are being killed indiscriminately and that this is in fact a genocide. 2 years, UN, 2 years of over 60,000 people being unalived based on a very small 15 to 20,000 group of Hamas fighters. Israel is yet again expanding its empire further into Palestinian territory. And it's right here, right now with Gaza. This is not the first time Israel has expanded their empire. I've done a breakdown on that, no less. But again, this is where we are here today. And some people will state that they have just cause because of the terroristic act of Hamas 2 years ago that killed and kidnapped over 1,200 Israelis. But if you look at the accounts, the reports and evidence, 61,000 plus and counting Palestinians have been unalive to this day. And the UN has come out and stated that this is in fact a genocide. Well, thanks, UN. It only took you 2 years. And what are the UN is going to do about it? That's the question that I believe that a lot of us has. What is UN going to do about this, not only humanitarian crisis that they keep stating, but this genocide they're talking about. You're a very powerful organization that was created by the West. And I have reason to believe, because the UN was mostly constructed by British and American powers, and because Israel is an ally of America, the UN is only going to talk tough but do nothing. It's like a bully. The bully will just keep beating on you and keep talking bad about you until you stand up and fight back. But unfortunately, Palestine cannot fight back against Israel. Israel is just way too powerful. There's nothing that Palestine can do. And because Palestine is not even organized, okay, you have East Jerusalem, the West Bank. Their government is disarray. They're not even organized and connected and unified. Israel knows that. The UN knows that. But it's a genocide. There's a humanitarian effort here. People are starving in Gaza. Children are starving. These are very, very desperate people, ladies and gentlemen. Why is this important to America? Because once again, America is funding this war with our tax dollars. We have an invested interest in this genocide of Palestinian people. And everything has been politicized, and they have used political theater to push certain narratives. But when it comes to the tale of the tape of 61 plus thousand Palestinians have been unalived, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that are starving, women, men, and children. When is America going to step in, let alone the UN is going to step in? Because do not forget, the UN is funded by all these Western countries. So I guess it would be a contradiction if America is funding the UN and funding Israel, where we'll be funding two opposing parties. Because if the UN steps in, America is funding the UN, and then we're going against Israel, America is funding Israel, then where does America lie? We've always been told that white supremacy takes both sides of the arguments. So in this case, white supremacy takes both sides of the conflict, both sides of the war. The side of Israel to eradicate Hamas from the face of the earth, and the side of the Palestinians of them being unalive indiscriminately at a very alarming rate, that now the UN has come out and stated that this is indeed a genocide. Well, thanks, UN. What else you going to do about it? Inquiring minds would like to know. Now, the suspect in Charlie Kirk slaying 22-year-old Tyler Robertson has been linked to the crime scene by DNA found on a towel wrapped around the rifle on a screwdriver. He also alleged wrote a note expressing intent to kill him. The case is fueling debates on political violence, mental health, radicalization, and also sparking concern about how public figures are protected. I want you guys to listen in on this.
A chilling portrait emerging of the suspect police say assassinated Charlie Kirk. The Washington Post reports, citing two people familiar and a screenshot. He appeared to confess in an online group chat before turning himself in, writing, "Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this." The FBI director revealing two pieces of evidence had the suspect's DNA, a towel wrapped around the murder weapon, and a screwdriver found on the roof, saying the suspect had a hatred of Kirk.
His family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology, and he had a text message exchange, he the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
The FBI now investigating if anyone had information before the shooting and did not tell authorities. President Trump was asked if the suspect worked alone.
I don't know. I mean, I can tell you he didn't work alone on the internet, because it seems that he became radicalized on the internet.
Here at Utah County Jail, authorities say that Tyler Robinson is now on a special watch status, meaning even closer supervision, adding he'll stay there until passing a mental health evaluation.
You know, family, the only question I have here is, when they stated that he was radicalized by the left, he's talking about Democrats and liberals. Thank God here at Blacklogic, we're no liberal, we're no Democrat, we're no Republican, and we're no conservative. We're about the truth here. And if you're new to Blacklogic, please hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, so you're notified every time I go live and or release a video. Why is this important? They have politicized everything in America ever since President Trump has been the 47th president. Everything is either right or left, right or left. And each group are radicalizing each other. And they're making assassins. Now, the right is stating, even though that his family, Tyler Robinson, the assassin in this case, even though that his family have been conservatives from his birth, that even Tyler Robinson himself was a conservative. They're now stating that he has been radicalized by the left. So this is a question here. How did the left radicalize him to the point where the left told him to go out, take a rifle, get up on a rooftop at Utah Valley University and kill Charlie Kirk? Now, here's another question. When you have mass shootings, a lot of them have, unfortunately, been on the conservative side. Who has radicalized them? Has it been the left? But then again, they're taking out conservative figures, and then they're indiscriminately shooting random innocent people at events, function, churches, shopping malls, any public place. And then a lot of them tend to be neo-Nazi groups, which tend to lean right more so than other. What is my point here? And I'm protecting the left. If I'm giving reasons for the left, if I'm giving excuses for the left, absolutely not. To me, there is no different. We live in a system of white supremacy where they control both sides of the coin. One heads, one tails, one left, one right, one up, one down. It doesn't matter. It all ends in violence. Well, he was left-winged, but he was radicalized by the right. He went up and started shooting people. He was right-winged, but then he was radicalized by the left. He took a rifle and then started shooting people. I don't know the difference. They keep trying to divide people because they understand in government, when you divide people, you control people. Divide and conquer. This is ancient old strategy. You can learn a lot of these tactics that they're using in Sun Tzu, Art of War. I read the book every year. I read Sun Tzu, Art of War. I read the 48 Laws of Power. There's a couple of books I keep on rotation because they're using ancient old tactics to divide people. Why unify people? Why in the hell will America unify people so we can all be kumbaya? I thought rap and country music would solve the crime, would solve the racialization of certain demographics in America, but it has not. Music is not the answer. The radicalization and racialization of people is done by our government and white supremacists who are in our government. Is everyone in our government white supremacists? No. Do we have white supremacists on the right and the left? Absolutely. And they know how to keep to divide, because when they divide a people, they stay in power. If you unify people, the people will definitely wake up and understand the tactics of this very evil, tyrannical government. And I'm not just talking about because President Trump is in office. I'm talking about when Biden was in office. I'm talking about when Obama was in office. I'm talking about when Bush was in office. I'm talking about when Reagan was in office. I'm talking about when Jimmy Carter was in office as well. They know how to keep people divided. They don't want American citizens to accept black people. They don't want American citizens to accept white people. But they know they are the majority of the population, so they will reign supreme. Unfortunately, we are totally outnumbered. And this is not about a damn race war. The only people that are referring to a race war are white people. And I don't mean everyday white people. I'm talking about those who adhere to white supremacist ideology. These are the ones who want to take up their guns, go door to door and kill so-called liberals. I don't know how in the hell are you going to go door to door and just kill liberals? Are you going to knock? Hey, are you a Democrat? Yes. Now, there's two types of Democrats here. The party of the KKK Democrats and then the liberal Democrats that are pro-woke. Which one are you? I'm pro-woke. Pow! I'm part of the Democrats of the KKK. All right. What do you know about your neighbors? Is that where we're going to go to? So in the Bible, because this is a Christian country, no less, the Bible states that violence begets violence. I guess we're only operating off the Old Testament, not the New Testament, because that talks about forgiveness and other things that wouldn't have you to lead to violence. But I digress. Marco Rubio. Now, when it comes to Marco Rubio, he's stating that people who are celebrating Charlie Kirk's death needs to be deported. He said he is deporting visa holders who celebrated Kirk's killing. Now, we're going to find ourselves in a contradicting conundrum. Yeah, we are. You know why? Because in order for Marco Rubio to do this, he has to violate the Constitution of these United States of America. Now, we know that the right Republicans more so talk about the Constitution than the left and the liberals. See, that's why, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, when you choose a side, you have to die on that side. You have to go down with that sinking ship. Even if you're independent, oh, I'm in the middle, I'm an independent, so, I play both sides. No, every single side is a lie. And they manipulate people and trick people and dupe people into believing in their ideology. That's why I push away and to stay on truth. Oh, truth is hard, man. You got to pick a side, man. You just can't, man, you got to pick a side. No one's picking truth. No one's picking the power of the truth. They just want to pick a side. So according to the Constitution, okay, Rubio says U.S. is deporting visa holders who celebrated Kirk's killing. Now, according to the Constitution, let me blow this up for you guys. It states here that visa holders and other non-citizens who are on some sort of visa or permit or resident status are protected by constitutional rights, including freedom of speech, religion, and assembly, as well as the due process rights to fair treatment under the law and protection from unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, if you look to the right, that is where the information is coming from. It also going to state that fundamental constitutional rights, you have the right to express yourself and practice your religion without government interference, to express yourself and practice it without the interference of the government. That's what it's stating. I know you want me to go a little bit deeper when it comes to solidifying what the Constitution actually states, because Blacklogic, you're just showing me some reference of some liberal websites that AI has constructed together and give you this blurb here. You're right. So let's go to Congress. Let's go to constitution.congress.gov that basically points out aliens in the United States of America, aka immigrants. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18. The Congress shall have power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foreign powers and all the powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or any department of officer thereof. In 1903, the court in the Japanese immigrant case reviewed the legality of deporting an alien who had lawfully entered the United States. So again, Marco Rubio stated they are deporting immigrants with valid visa holders, okay, visa holders, they're not expired, who celebrated Kirk's killing. Let me read on. It goes on to state that clarifying that an alien who has entered the country and has become subject in all respects to his jurisdiction, meaning that they are legal, and a part of its population could not be deported without an opportunity to be heard upon the questions involving his right to be and remain in the United States of America. In the decades that follow, our Supreme Court maintained the notion that once an alien lawfully enters, visa holders, and resides in this country, he becomes invested with the rights guaranteed by the Constitution to all people within our borders. Oh my God. So we only uphold the Constitution when it suits us. Wow. This is why they didn't want black people to learn how to read. Them niggas gonna read and they're gonna show us just prudence when it comes to the laws we've enacted for this country. Them Negroes, them negras are going to learn how to read. Let's talk about it. We must unveil the true problem in America. Let's stop letting propaganda talk over the numbers. For decades, America has trained us to see black faces when you hear the word crime. But when you actually open the receipts, government reports, court records, and credible databases, a very different picture appears. America wants you to see me as a criminal, as a murderer, as an arsonist, as a rapist. They want you to see that I am the face of crime in America. All races of people, all demographics of people in America commits crime. But there is one group that commits more crime than other people. And I know for you guys in the comment section, you're going to state that, oh, well, white people outnumber black people. Well, the reports I'm going to give you here today, ladies and gentlemen, are based on the percentage of the population. So the numbers are accurate and not based upon simple numbers, which white people do outnumber black people in America. We're going to talk about white violence. We're also going to talk about white mass shootings. Because the one thing that media does not do is let you hear about the crime of the majority of the population by percentage and how the percentage is higher in crime than, quote unquote, the famed black on black crime. This is what they don't want you to know. This is what they don't want you to see, because most violent crime in America is intraracial. White victims are usually harmed by white offenders. Again, most violent crime in America is intraracial. White crimes are usually harmed by white offenders. White victims are usually harmed by white offenders. Black victims are usually harmed by black offenders. That's not culture, that's proximity and segregation at work. Confirmed by federal victimization data. This is what they don't want you to see. They don't want you to see things like this, ladies and gentlemen, because here's the thing. This is on USA Today. It says, fact check, rates of white on white and black on black crime are similar. Oh, so we're both criminals. Okay. And it says here the claim there, and this is the claim. Okay. So these statistics are absolutely inaccurate. The claim, there are significant race-based disparities in civilian homicide rates, but not in police homicide rates. Okay. Whites killing blacks, only 2%. Police killing whites, 3%. Whites killing whites, 16%. Blacks killing whites, 81%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is why this is the claim, because this is how you radicalize people to believe that one demographic of people are killing your people more so than the others. Just as well, the white South Africaners were telling Elon Musk and the American government that South Africa, who now has a black government, were killing the Boers, the white farmers in South Africa, indiscriminately, and showed this whole display of all these white farmers that supposedly got killed. Come to the report, it was totally inaccurate, totally wrong. But this is how you trick a people who are emotionally charged to believe that their group is greater and better than any other group in the country. is to state that these black people are the cause of crime in America, which isn't true. They say the rates are similar. They say that blacks killing whites 81%. Wait a minute. Black people are killing white people at 81% of the crime? What about Chicago? What about New York? What about Baltimore? What about Memphis? What about LA? Because we keep talking about black on black crime. Even Charlie Kirk, before he was unalive, was talking about black on black crime. But I've never heard Charlie Kirk. I never heard Candace Owens. I never heard Steve Bannon. I never heard Alex Jones talk about white on white crime. I know, liberal lies. They're liberal, they're lies. This is right. This is the truth, Blacklogic. Can't you see? You might be one of those good Negroes. Look like you had a little bit of intelligence. You take the IQ test. Police killing blacks 1%. Blacks killing blacks 97%. So blacks are killing blacks and blacks are killing whites. So if blacks are killing blacks at 97% and blacks are killing white, where are all the people at? Where are all the people committing these crimes? Oh, they just go inside and they post bail and then they're released. And that's why President Trump has enacted cashless bail, because all those crimes that are written in these black liberal cities. This is how they radicalize you. This is how they make you extremists. They feed you with lies through politics and media, because this is the reason why you shouldn't choose a side. Because whether it be Democratic liberals or conservative Republicans, both news agencies never report on white crime, but they will talk about black on black crime. They have black scholars, black intellectuals on their newscast and talk about the real crime in America is black on black crime. How are we going to solve this? Well, we need fathers in the home. And then we have multiple reports that majority of black dads are in the home if they're not incarcerated because of over policing and mass incarceration. Oh, we don't want to get into that, do we not? Because then we dive into the statistics. Well, the statistics have been screwed. They have been manipulated, have been changed. These are fraudulent. They're by the same tyrannical government that we all trust and believe, that upholds the Constitution. Don't let me lie to you, but it goes on. Let's dive into this. I'm gonna do quite a bit of reading, so stay with me here. Now this is more fact. Rates of white on white and black on black homicide are similar to around 80 and 90%. Most homicides in the U.S. are interracial, and the rates on white and black on black killings are similar, both long-term and individual years. So we're both killing each other at the same rate and same amount, according to the report. Don't worry. I have more substance. I have more evidence. I have more statistics to back, not this theory, but to back the fact. Because the majority of the black people that you know are good people. The majority of black people you hang around are good people. I digress. Let me move on here, ladies and gentlemen. I want to make sure I give you the full tale of the tape here. Between 1980 and 2008, the U.S. Department of Justice found that 84% of white victims were killed by white offenders and 93% of black victims were killed by black offenders. In 2018, the Federal Bureau of Investigations reported that 81% of white victims were killed by white offenders and 89% of black victims were killed by black offenders. Let's continue. In 2017, the FBI reported almost identical figures. 80% of white victims were killed by white offenders and 88% of black victims were killed by black offenders. Seem as though we're killing each other similarly the same within a 10% ratio. Though the numbers differ year to year, the stark difference that the viral post attempts to portray between the rates of white on white and black on black homicide, which it puts at 16 and 97% respectively, is inaccurate. It's inaccurate. Both numbers tend to hover between 80 and 90% and remain within the 10% points of each other. Rates of black on white and white on black homicide also within 8 points. In 2018, it says that 16% of white victims were killed by black offenders, while 8% of black victims were killed by white offenders. And similarly, it goes on and on and on. And police kill black people at a disproportional rate. So again, they were stating and again manipulating the people through media and statistics, stating that police were killing white people at 16% and black people at 2%. And that is a big fat lie. Nationwide statistics are less readily available. Multiple studies have found that police kill black people at disproportionate rates. Let's go to the Bureau of Justice and Statistics. Oh, we hate statistics. I took it in my business class, by the way. But we need to get into statistics because this is only going to make sense. Now, for those who are very analytical, I'll just pop this on the screen very quickly so you guys can look at the timeline and the racial categories of each group and how they indiscriminately, murder and homicide people rates are per 1,000 persons at age 12 or older. Okay, I want you guys to see this at the bottom here. Rates are per 1,000 persons. So it's based off percentage, not simple numbers. But it made it very easy for you guys to understand here. And again, this is coming from a government website, by the way, of the Bureau of Justice Statistics, okay? Of Justice Statistics. Let's move down here to this. The rate of violent victimization by type of crime and victim race, including Hispanic. We know Hispanics are not a race. They're an ethnic group because they can contribute to any racial category, both black and white. You have white Hispanics and you also have black Hispanics. I digress. Now, total violent crime, total 19.5. They have the total numbers that are aggregated here on your left in your total column. And then you have white, black, and Hispanic respectively, okay? We're going to focus on white and black. America's always been white and black for a very long time. Native Americans have never been really part of the numbers when it comes to crime. They always keep them as a misnomer, so to speak. So again, this is per 1,000. So this is based off percentages and not simple numbers. So we are closer to the truth than we've ever had before, because some people will state that white people outnumber black people, thus our numbers are higher. Nope, you cannot screw the numbers on this because this is based off percentage. Total violent crime, 19.8 versus 19.4. Rape and sexual assault, 1.7, 1.4. Robbery, 1.6 to 2.8. Now, granted, you see these little symbols here, plus. You may see a double plus. Now, it states that significant difference from the comparison group at 95% confidence level is the 1+, and 2+ is 90% confidence level, okay? So, okay, black people rob more than white people, and white people rape and do more violent crime than black people. I digress. Assault, 16.5 versus 15.2. So they assault people more. When it comes to aggregated assault, meaning that, you know what, somebody was messing with you, so you punch them in the face, 3.8 to 3.2. That makes sense, because if you call a black person the N-word, you're going to get punched in the face. If you step on a black person's shoes and you don't say sorry, you're going to get punched in the face, or it might just get punched in the face altogether. It just depends on the situation, no less. I'm just telling you the truth because I'm part of both demographics, okay? I'm part of the demographic that when you step on somebody's shoe, they may punch you in the face, like, hey, brother, my bad. I didn't mean to just jump on your fresh J's, man. Can I clean them all for you? I'm not trying to get into a fight. Simple assault, 13.3% versus our 11.3%. And then we have a double plus. Let's go back to here. That is only a 90% confidence level. But again, we're over 90%. I would like to believe that's more true than false. Then violent crime, excluding simple assault, 6.4 to 8.0. So again, am I the one creating these statistics? Absolutely not. I'm absolutely not doing that, because what we're talking about here, today, ladies and gentlemen, is white violence. The deadliest mass shootings of the last decade, from churches to concerts, synagogues to supermarkets, are overwhelmingly carried out by white men. And a long list of the most lethal were perpetrated by white men, often animated by conspiracies or grievance ideologies. That's not a talking point, that's the case files. Yeah, we're going to say the quiet part out loud. White on white crime is a core driver of American violence and mass shootings in particular, but narrative machine keeps you starting somewhere else. That's what they want you to do. They want to keep your eyes on the prize. They want to make black people the boogeymen in America. Well, let's say the quiet part out loud, ladies and gentlemen. Majority of black people live around black people. Majority of white people live around white people. But someone who has been radicalized would say, if you were to be harmed, what racial group you think will harm you the first? Them black people, they're violent. Well, we have reports that over 80% of white people are harmed, killed, raped by white people. Oh, well, there's a liberal lies. Well, we have reports that majority of the offenders in violent crime in America are white people. Those are conservative lies. I don't believe in that one bit. It's those darn black people. That's the problem. They need to go back to their own country. What about foundational Black Americans? Who are those? Who's those people? African American? They need to go back to Africa. They've never been to Africa. They haven't been in Africa for thousands of years. They're indigenous to the land. Indigenous to the land? Well, your family is from Europe. Well, we conquered this land. We colonized this land. This is our land now. We put the Native Americans on reservations. We put the black people in slavery. They did all the work. They generated billions of dollars and trillions of dollars of wealth for America. Now they need to go back. They're just as part of America as well as you are, if not more, for all the things they contributed. What did they contribute? Except murder, death, kill, and gang violence. In Baltimore, Memphis, New York, Chicago. That's all they got. They have people on the right and the left. They just talk very differently. People who seem to be right-winged or conservative or Republican speaks more aggressively about black on black crime. They tend to go on rants and spew these very inaccurate statistics and numbers regarding it. And then on the left, they just tend to have these interviews. So what do you believe the crime problem in Chicago could be contributed to? Do you believe it's a lack of dads in the home? Where are you getting these reports? Because, our jails are mostly populated at over 50% of black males. Then the question is, why? Are black neighborhoods more policed and over-policed than white neighborhoods? Well, yeah, that's because where all the crime is coming from. Is that true? That's very interesting to me because the FBI stated that murder and non-negligent manslaughter, again, percentages, even though you see simple numbers, this is based off percentages, and I'll show you that white people are just less than 400 to 500 than black people. But when you totally add up all the numbers of this basic crime in America, because can we be real about the numbers here, ladies and gentlemen? All crime is not violent crime, but we're just talking about crime. Or we only can talk about the crime that we see. We can only talk about crime that has been recorded. Oh, but there's more crime here. There's more crime. The first three columns here, total white and black. And I'm not going to read some of these numbers because we've seen this many times before here on Blacklogic, but we're just going to go just a little bit deeper here on table 43. I just want you guys to look at this column, which is the white representation. And this other column here where my cursor is the black representation of crime. Burglaries, aggravated assault. Look at that, aggravated assault, larceny. Now, majority of white people are leading in all these crimes. Now, this is my theory, not an excuse, not a reason. This is my theory. When I started to really dive into murder and non-negligent manslaughter and why black Americans are leading the charge on this, unfortunately, it's because the proximity in which we live to one another. Not that we live in the same neighborhood community, not that. How close we live with one another. Again, I must point out that Nazi Germany got their tactics of the ghetto from America. the way they boxed in and redlined Americans to Black Americans to one neighborhood, one community, and gave them limited space to operate, which they saw incited more violence than people who were spread out throughout suburbs and other areas. Again, we've always been the science experiment. Well, let's do it to Black people first. There's been many stories coming out of environmental genocide here in America, that back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, in certain neighborhoods, they were literally driving trucks through Black neighborhoods and releasing chemical and biological warfare agents to see the effect on the people. So then we can then use that in warfare. They didn't do that in white neighborhoods. They didn't do that in poor white neighborhoods. They didn't do that in middle class white neighborhoods or rich neighborhoods. No, they did it in Black neighborhoods. And some of these towns do not exist. And a lot of the people have, unfortunately, have passed away. And those who are still living are, unfortunately, dying slowly because of cancer, because of these agents. You should look it up. It's very intriguing. I don't want to get off course here. Let's get back on the numbers. Now, as I told you, I want to dive just a little bit deeper here because of rounding the percentage. As I told people, because people are like, oh no, we're large in the population. So again, that's the reason why we have higher numbers. No, this is based upon percentage. I just wanted guys to show that. Now, we do have a table, arrests under 18. Who's committing the crime under 18? Now, you would think that the numbers would be more because of gang violence in these Black liberal cities. And the reason why I'm saying liberal cities, but for some reason, some conservative, not all, they believe that all Black people are Democrats, that all Black people are liberals, which is absolutely false. Some Black people don't even affiliate themselves with a political party. It's asinine to do so. Both are working against our best interests. One group ignores you and one group lies to you. I digress. Again, arrests under 18 based upon race. It says murder and non-negligent manslaughter, 298 for white, 314 for Black. And then we go down the numbers again. Other than robberies, white people lead the charge in every other crime. Burglary, 8,000 to 5,000. Larceny theft, 33 to 24. Motor vehicle theft must be Jersey, 45 to 47. Arson, 862 to 341. And the list goes on and on and on. Sex offense except rape and prostitution, 34. Okay, that's white, 3,400 to 1,000. Oh, okay. Prostitution, commercial line, vice, 101 to 108. Okay, very, very similar within a 10% ratio there. Gambling, 87 to 57. Offense against family and children, 1,377 to 463. And then we get into arrests over 18. They just breaking the numbers even more so than they had before. And then we get closer. Okay. Only 400, that's 400, 350 difference. Rape, 9,500 to 3,600. Robbery. Okay. But majority of the crime, according to the statistics, are committed by white people and mostly white men. Active shooter incidents in the United States. Uh-oh. We're saying the quiet part out loud, ladies and gentlemen. Why is that? This month alone, conservative activist Charlie Kirk was killed during a very public event. And also within days, a shooter at Evergreen High School in Colorado critically injured students. Authorities and independent minorities say that the teen had neo-Nazi and mass shooter fixations online. This isn't about partisan points. It's about culture that incubates violence, then blames someone else. You know, I'm just wondering, ladies and gentlemen, was this young man radicalized by the left to commit this heinous crime? He was fixated on mass shootings, and he was a suspected or he contribute to the neo-Nazi views. And this Colorado high school had majority of white students. So again, this is white on white violence that neither the right or the left report on. You know why? Because they erase their receipts. This is white supremacist logic. This ain't black logic. because Blacklogic is going to tell you the truth and give you reports and receipts. And most important, I'm going to give you the invoices. But they try to erase their receipts. They don't make primetime news. And by the way, ever since Charlie Kirk was murdered, you know the one thing we haven't heard about? The Epstein files. Marjorie Taylor Greene, where you at? Alex Jones, where you at? Steve Bannon, where you at? Candace Owens, where you at? That's the one thing we haven't seen. See, everyone is getting in a hoopla and riled up and charged up, want to go out and unalive, kill, murder liberals, and they're trying to make this a black issue. This is not a black issue. We're talking about white on white violence that the media and even some white people are ignoring. Not all white people. That's my disclaimer. Because some of you know the violence in your community. Because you know why? There were a time, I think it was a couple of years ago, where they were doing this test and they were asking white women, if your children get lost in an amusement park, get lost at an event or a function, would you have them if there was no security guard or police around, would you have your children go up to a white man or a black man? Did you know 8 out of 10 white women said go up to a black man? That is because we do not kidnap and we are not known pedophiles at the same rate, at the same ratio and same percentage of the white men. Because if a little white girl, if a little white boy comes up to me and say, excuse me, mister, I'm lost. The first thing I'm going to do is look for a security guard. I'm going to look for a police officer. Like, stay right here, young man. Stay right here, young lady. Let me find someone on security. They can radio in and report your position, because we are very humane people. Now, do we have some degenerates in black culture? Do we have some violent people in our ranks, in our race? Absolutely. And I won't give excuse for some of the things that they've done, because I've given many reasons, not excuses, many reasons, but then they're just evil people who do evil things that are from all races. But why would I tell you that story? Because you know and I know that the black people that you know and I know are good people. They're not just out here indiscriminately killing people. Did this young man go to this school? Did he have a problem with the teacher? Then why are you trying to shoot everybody? I want to tell white supremacists and people who lean to white ideology, white supremacist ideology, that is. I have this one thing that I wanted to tell you guys. Please, just bear with me. Why do you guys, now I'm going to ask a question, I'm going to tell you something. Why do you guys worry about black on black violence when majority of black people are killing black people? Why do you guys worry about black on black violence when majority of black people live around black people? We're not going to Georgetown, D.C., shooting up. There's no gang violence in Georgetown, D.C. There's no gang violence in Upper 16, D.C. There's no gang violence in Adams Morgan, D.C. No, they're in the hoods and the ghettos, right? Then let those black people kill those black people. Because you know the one thing that black people don't do? We don't come out into the suburbs. We don't go into the hills with the hillbillies. We don't go to the trailer park and say, why are you white people killing all these white people? That's white on white violence. Let's stop this killing. We don't do that. We mind our business, leave black people alone. Thank you. We mind our business. And if people in the hoods and the ghettos and gang violence are killing each other, then so be it. That's what they're doing. Do I approve of it? Absolutely not. If they're committing crime, should they be in jail? Yes. So in the same breath, when you have people who are committing white violence and white mass shootings, then they need to be incarcerated at the same rate, at the same percentage as anyone else. Let's say the quiet part out loud. White on white violence is a problem in America, but they keep hiding behind the media and media influence as if black people are the problem. We've never been the problem. Never, ever in American history have black people been the crime problem in America. Well, black people back in the 1950s and 1960s, they were much better than they are today. You guys have never been good to black people. You wasn't good to us in slavery. You wasn't good to us in Jim Crow. You wasn't good to us in Reconstruction. You wasn't good to us in the 60s and civil rights. And matter of fact, now that I think about it, Charlie Kirk was speaking anti-civil rights, that the civil rights bill should have never been signed. And then people was comparing Charlie Kirk to MLK. And then in the same breath, Charlie Kirk was talking about why we can't question MLK. They were actually fighting against a holiday for MLK. I thought everybody loved MLK. Absolutely not. He even stated that we should return this country back to the 1950s because that will, in fact, eradicate the Civil Rights Bill. But if you go back to the 1950s, what was in place during the 1950s? Segregation. Okay, not bad with that. I'm not totally against that. But Jim Crow. But Charlie Kirk wasn't spewing any hate. That's peculiar. That's odd. That's strange. I thought otherwise. White violence. Let's name just some landmark cases from the last 10 years. And again, not exhaustive, but race is not always recorded consistently and hundreds of incidents exist. But majority of the crimes, and these crimes that will be named, are from white mass shooters, mostly male. I don't know any white female mass shooters, by the way, just so I point that out. Las Vegas, 2017. Stephen Paddock opened fire on a concert crowd, killing 60 people. The deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history, white male. He killed 60. Sutherland Springs, Texas, 2017. Devin Kelly murdered 26 at a church, white male. And by the way, some of these mass killings that are done by white males, they kill other white people. But just like this person, neo-Nazi, they're looking for non-white people as well. They really want to kill non-white people. This is all dealing with white mass shooters. Pittsburgh, 2018, Robert Bowers murdered 11 Jews at Tree of Life Synagogue, steeped in white supremacist rhetoric. White male federal death sentence recommended. El Paso, 2019, Patrick Crusoe killed 23 at Walmart, citing a replacement manifesto targeting Latinos. White male. Buffalo, 2022, Peyton Gendron murdered 10 Black people at a supermarket, broadcasting white supremacist motive, feds pursuing the death penalty. White male. Highland Park, Illinois, 2022, Robert Cremo III killed 7 at a July 4th parade, sentenced to life without parole. White male. Now, as I was showing you guys earlier, the FBI's active shooter tally showed dozens of incidents annually. And a lot of these mass shootings occur across schools, churches, stores, festivals, and all other sorts of places. These reports don't always publish the truth, but they do map the skill and locations of the threats. And the Gun Violence Archive, a running ledger, shows hundreds of mass shooting events each year dating back for 2015. This is not a Black crime phenomenon. It's an American white gun phenomenon of white mass shooters. Some people are not going to like me for spilling the truth. That's okay. As I told you, invoices and receipts. I'm just going to show you guys this very quickly. Okay, just going to show you this very quickly. And we won't dive too deep here, ladies and gentlemen. There's just so much that's in here. We're just exploring the map. Now, the red indicates fatalities, and the yellow relates to non-fatalities, meaning no one died. But if we let's get into children involved, let's break it down, and fatal, okay? And again, this is coming from the trace.org. You guys can look at this more so than any other place. But look at all these places coming from the major cities of how people are getting harmed and unalived. I just want to show you some of the research I've been doing so you can go research for yourself, because it's very imperative that no one's just giving you a bunch of information and then lying on one group, because we're so used to that in the media, where they keep saying Black on Black crime, Black on Black crime, Black on Black crime, where I have other Black people talking about Black on Black crime. Let's talk about it. Black people should be talking about Black on Black crime. Again, Black people should be talking about Black on Black crime and how to eradicate it, how to decrease it, how to stop it. But when you align yourself with white supremacist ideology and spew the same talking points that they do, and they ever talk about white on white crime, there's a problem. You have an identity problem. You have a cultural problem. Because if I align myself with people If I align myself with persons that do not talk about their own group of people and they always demonize, they always subjugate, they always talk down and talk bad about and skew the numbers in their favors, and they're always talking about black on black crime, but you never, ever hear them talk about white on white crime, there's a problem. I have a question. And again, I'm not one of the black people that celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't empathize. I didn't mourn. I did nothing. I just reported it. That's it. But I have one question for people who are mourning the death of Charlie Kirk, those who are looking in the best interest of his family and those that surrounding him and supporting him and those who stated that they were his friend. I have one question because I do not know. He said a lot of things over the years. The only question I have related is, have you ever heard publicly on one of his broadcasts at one of his rallies, whether it be at a university or Turning Point USA, have you ever heard him talk about white on white violence and that it needs to stop, and gave you statistics to support his claim? Have you ever? And if you do, please, please leave that link in the comment section below. I don't know, but I know he's talking on black crime multiple times. Almost at every university, Jubilee, the YouTube channel that does a lot of racializing and divide as well, that's ran by, I believe, an Asian person from Korean descent, no less. But I just want to know, has he ever talked about white on white crime the same way he talked about black on black crime? That's the question that I have. Now, based on analysis of different categories of mass violence in the United States, research shows that white men account for the majority of family killers, often referred to as family annihilators for public mass shootings. White individuals are also the largest group of perpetrators, though their portion aligns closely with their percentage of the overall population. Perpetrators who kill family members are overwhelmingly male and most often white. Studies have found that perpetrators are typically white middle-aged males who target their intimate partner and their children. Who's despicable, who's disgusting. These white men, not all white men, got to keep saying it because some people, they're talking about all the white people are mad. Black people are always talking about white people. No. Not all white people are evil. Not all white people are manipulating the public. Not all white people in media are telling lies, but there's a great number of them that are. Not all white people deal within the system of white supremacy and white supremacy ideology. That may trigger some people. Black people, by the way, because I know this to be true. Not all white people are like that, but we have white people in place that uphold the system of white supremacy by only telling you the bad and the ugly of black folk. And they increase the numbers as they do so. But then when we go to the same reports, white people are harming white people within a 10% ratio, as well as black people. So who's better? Who's better? And then we said majority of people who are killing their families are white men. Majority of people who are raping are white men. Majority of pedophiles are white men. Who's better? White people are killing white people at 80+%. Black people are killing black people at 80+%. We don't want to talk about white violence. You've seen the viral memes that claim that black people commit most murders of white people. They're false. Here's your perpetrator. And as I showed you, USA Today and PolitiFact debunked those graphics years ago. They compared them to official federal data. I showed you guys the BGS, the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Victimization shows that crime is mostly interracial and context driven. Neighborhoods, exposure, and poverty, not genetic, not race. Let me say it again, not genetic and not based upon your race. It's interracial when it comes to these crimes. It's proximity when it comes to this crime. Black people majority kill black people. White people majority kill white people. White people are most often victimized by white people and black people by black people. That's the actual pattern according to the government statistics. See, multiple U.S. agency and research centers have flagged long-running lethality of white supremacist anti-government violence. Have you noticed that all these political killings have been by white men? And I don't know if they're from the right or the left. Does it matter? Does it really matter? Each group is radicalizing each other, and they just got black people pigeon-toed in, and they're trying to blame us for these things. First is liberal, Democrat. Oh, it's black. Then it's woke. Then it's this. Oh my God. Oh, it's BLM. Derek Chauvin should be out of jail. George Floyd had fentanyl in the system. Let me ask you this question. So supposedly George Floyd had a fake $20 bill, got reported. The police shows up. They put him on the ground, face down, put a knee on his neck. Other police officer, I think it was 3 other police officers, all was kneeling on his body, but they stated that the one on his neck is the actual one that took his life. Then you had people like Officer Tatum and Candace Owens stating that the officer did not kill George Floyd, that he indeed died from a fentanyl overdose. Well, he was walking perfectly fine. Now, granted, the brother shouldn't have been doing fentanyl. He definitely shouldn't have been doing drugs while he had kids in the car, etc. We can get all into the weeds about things. I'm going right for the jugular. Would George Floyd died if it was not for Derek Chauvin knee on his neck for 9+ minutes and George Floyd stating that he couldn't breathe? Because what Derek Chauvin what he did was restrict the airflow of George Floyd. And while the other officers compressed his diaphragm and constricted his lungs from getting the amount of air that he needs for bodily function, that was all decreased. They're accomplice to the murder. Because you can close off the windpipe and you can try to talk like this, but you can still breathe. But when you have your lungs compressed and your stomach cannot expand, you are indeed accomplice to the murder. But then you have these people who align with white supremacist ideology that comes out and take up for Derek Chauvin as if George Floyd would have lived even if Derek Chauvin's knee was not in his neck. This is white supremacist ideology. This is how they manipulate the public. I wonder if we just had everybody to come out and tell the truth versus being opinionated. I will give my opinion and I will tell you that this is my opinion. But can we just get to the truth? Well, one report from the medical examiner stating that it was fentanyl. The actual certified, verified report stated that he died because of the knee to the neck that restricted his airway. Not conjecture, fact. Now, as I was talking about the white supremacist anti-government violence, we cannot forget DHS Homeland Threat Assessments and the Senate Homeland Security analysis that white supremacists and anti-government extremists have been among the most persistent and lethal domestic threats that we have. Not gangs in Chicago. Because you know what gangs in Chicago, drill rap is doing, all these things they bring up? You know what they're doing? They're killing one another. They're not going and killing Minnesota political officials. They're not getting on top of rooftops and killing Charlie Kirk. They're not trying to assassinate Donald Trump. They're killing one another. This doesn't affect white people at all. Because guess what white people don't do? White people don't go to the hood. Why would you go to the hood? And the only time that black people may go to the suburbs or affluent white neighborhoods is to steal your car. Oh, I keep it real. Because if I steal my neighbor's car, he got a 1995 Acura Legend. That's not worth no money. That's not even worth joyriding in. I'm about to go to the affluent white neighborhood and I'm gonna steal me an S-Class. And I'm gonna see if I can drop it off at a chop shop to get the most money after I have my fun with it. Hopefully I don't get caught. But when we're talking about murder and like real, like victim violence, both groups are killing each other about similar to the same rate. And when it comes to the ADL, murder and extremism, most extreme murders in many recent years are linked to the right wing. According to the ADL, murder and extremism, that most murders in recent years are linked to the right wing. So when propaganda tells you that Black America is a violence problem, remember that the government's own threat assessment keeps pointing at a different center of gravity. Because white on white crime and far-right violence would force reforms that the status quo doesn't want. This gets me back to my gun violence video. We will have more strict and restrictive gun safety laws. We will have de-radicalization strategies. We will have online platform accountability when people say certain things and don't back it up with fact and statistics and just slew freaking lies. And lastly, we will have mental health systems that actually work. that actually support the people with mental health problems. See, my things are not about the right or the left. Even though I will point out that the right and the left, in my opinion, are both the same, they just do things very differently, but they have the same ending result. Murder, death, kill, destruction, chaos, mayhem. White on white crime in our nation is a problem, but I know my people are not looking to eradicate, to unalive white people. That's asinine. It's the culture is the problem. It's the lack of white dads in the home, because the reports have it that when Black men are not in jail, they're taking care of their children. They're help grooming and cooking and mentoring their children. But see, I believe all these numbers are typically similar to one another when it comes to our two demographics, but the media portrays this very differently. As a matter of fact, the country displays this very differently, because instead the country blames Black communities. They flood the zone with fake stats and they regurgitate it, and they use Black mouthpieces to do so because it's more believable. And then you start to radicalize other Black people to believe as if we are the problem. And then they treat white perpetrators as lone wolves. He had a mental issue. He was radicalized by the left. We don't have an ongoing white supremacist, white violence, white mass shooting problem in America. It's the right, it's the left, it's the right, it's the left. What is the common factor? No matter the political side, it's the ideology that a lot of these perpetrators hold. And the ideology is white supremacy. They want you to believe that these are lone wolves or troubled youths rather than the predictable output of a radicalization pipeline. 4chan, Discord, from these very fringe forms to primetime euphemisms. And then this Colorado team, neo-Nazi online trail. Violence in America, ladies and gentlemen, is not a phenotype. It's not a race category. It's access plus ideology plus opportunity. Crime follows proximity, and mass shootings follow easy guns and radicalization. Get your hands off my guns. I wonder, people who commit senseless crime, would it be white mass shooters, white dads and white people killing their families, or is it gang violence in some of these Black cities? What would they do if they didn't have guns? They would just find another way to hurt and harm people. Do you believe that the amount of people that are being killed by gun violence, do you believe that it would increase or decrease if we had more restrictive gun laws? And then, as I stated, which my opinion was that the only people that should have guns in America, people who are certified security guards, people who are in law enforcement and retired law enforcement and military and retired military, people who are familiar and used to guns and what they can do. And believe me, that's a stretch even for me, because the Constitution, it could be a better foundation and bedrock of America. It can be a lot better. Am I saying, is it great? Absolutely not. But we made all these amendments and we can revamp the Constitution. What would you revamp? Are you free speech? Some things I would definitely revamp. And I will start with the Second Amendment. If it wasn't for the right to bear arms, do you believe Tyler Robinson would have had access to purchase a gun or access to get a gun through a straw man, get on a rooftop at Utah Valley University and kill Charlie Kirk? Or do you believe he would have to be more cunning and plant a bomb, which they probably would have checked for because he had security personnel, or try to get close enough for him to essentially, have a knife? And then I know some people just have great ingenuity, like, well, he just would 3-print a gun. But how many people would be 3-printing guns? Then there would be a legal gun trade where people are 3-printing guns so people can have guns. Then we'll have to, do investigations on that. But again, if we had more restrictive gun laws, I digress. But this is how a lot of people are being radicalized, so to speak. And then the receipts show a long list of white offenders at the heart of the deadliest attacks of the last decade. But they won't tell you about white on white crime. They'll just tell you about Black on Black crime. So if you want solutions, stop using Black communities as a scapegoat and start funding the real fixes. Red flag laws, universal background checks, threat assessment teams in schools, deplatforming extremist ecosystems, and robust community violence intervention in every community, not just Black communities.